Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Resident Evil 2 Leon B scenario. In the last part we explored the R.P.D. a bit more and got ourselves into the parking lot where we met and were assisted by Ada Wong in order to enter a new area of the R.P.D. And now we're, I guess, technically still in the basement. It's also a bit of a mix of a sewer area as you because of the spiders we saw last part. But around here there's only one area to go and that's into this room. And you might recall in the Claire A scenario, we had those three plates, the Serpent, Eagle, and I forget the third one. This is the equivalent for Leon. It looks like a panel to release the lock. There are descriptions for the plugs. King, Rook, Bishop, and Knight plug insertions. You might remember those three plates that we had to get in Claire, and how one was split into two. Those are the four items that Leon needs to find in order to progress.
Ada? I don't think I've introduced myself yet. My name's Leon. I'm with the R.P.D. It's a dead end.
You think we can get upstairs through this shaft? Give me a boost. I'll go and check. How cute. That little girl must have dropped this. I think I'll hold on to it for her.
And if that wasn't any indication, we are now in the section where Sherry was after she got separated from Claire. That little outdoors area. However, now this time there aren't two Cerberuses, there's like 4 zombies, including one that's constantly on the ground until you decide to walk into it. And what happens if we go the route where Claire was? Well, like with Sherry, we'll find some ammo. I think for us it's shotgun shells now, instead of grenade rounds? Yeah, shotgun shells. Now, Ada doesn't have much going for her. As you can see, she only has some handgun ammo, a handgun, a first aid spray, and now the shotgun shells. And I think in terms of health, she's somewhere in between Leon and Claire, but don't quote me on that. I know she doesn't have the exact... I know she's not the tank that Sherry was, but... she's nothing too special. Now, I forget what her animation is if a zombie gets on her leg. I want to say she kicks it, but I'm not entirely sure. Either way, you might know what we have to do here. First up, I'm actually going to grab that map this time. We have to once again do the little block pushing puzzle in here in order to get the sewage up to its proper point. So we can grab the key on the other side. It's times like this that I want to bring up yet again that, admittedly, while Resident Evil 2 is overall a great game, one of the flaws of the 2 scenario system is the redundancy a lot of puzzles have. Since you have to do a lot of them twice, they kind of not only lose their luster, in fact, some of them get outright annoying. In fact, I'm trying to think, are there any truly exclusive puzzles? I don't think there really is. Yeah, not that I can think of off the top of my head, aside from... maybe one. Which, mind you, Resident Evil 1 had that too, but to a lesser degree because of reasons. Namely because the mansion in Resident Evil 1 was pretty limited to begin with, and Jill and Chris went through very similar paths to begin with. That's one thing I have to say, Resident Evil 3, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of it compared to 2 or 1, did get right, is the fact that since there's only one playthrough, you don't have there's not going to be any real redundancy to it. And even then, 3 still has branches. As we'll eventually see. Either way, we're done as Ada. And honestly, it's actually shorter to play as her than Sherry.
Leon, can you hear me?
Ada, did you find anything?
Right here. Think fast. Here's one more. Hey, I can't reach the ventilation hole. I'm going to have to find another way around. I'll catch up with you later.
Ada, wait!
Leon, come in. I found the girl, and I've cleared the wreckage that was blocking the corridor.
Got it.
And with that, we now have access to the area where Brian Iron's office is. Which means backtracking. Yay. The B scenario does have a bit more backtracking than the A scenario in terms of pure length, but there's actually overall less backtracking in general, you know what I mean? Like, the backtracks are longer, but there's less of them. But I think, well, mind you, that's just what I feel like. It doesn't feel like there's much more than the A scenario. But yeah, I never go down that path with the dog kennels, by the way. All that's at the end of there is a red herb, and if you grab the red herb, I think that's when the two dogs break out. And I think their cells might have more herbs in them, but honestly, it's not worth it because the thing is with Leon, one thing I forgot to mention about Leon is that not only does his handgun carry more bullets by default, but he also has more health than Claire by default as well, as far as I can recall. So taking damage with him is not only less of a punishment overall, but I rarely get hit as him in comparison to Claire because of his better arsenal. No, part of me wonders why there was never a full-out reload button in the game, but to an extent it makes sense. Because it just wouldn't fit the genre, because I don't think the first Silent Hill had a reload button anyway. Either way, before we actually head back upstairs, we are doing one last thing here in the basement. You might remember the autopsy room, it's where we got the red key card to get into the armory. Well, now we're doing that for Leon. Only instead of zombies in here, we have two lickers. And the weird thing about lickers with a shotgun is they are a bit inconsistent with the amount of damage they'll take. Sometimes they'll die in 2 shotgun shells, other times in 3. And I'm not exactly sure what causes that difference. I'm not sure if it's due to like proximity, where you're hitting them. I'm not sure. So yeah, that's weird, but I've seen weirder differences in games, like Ninja Gaiden 3, for some reason, they doubled the damage you take in the American version, which I'll never understand that design mentality, because that makes Ninja Gaiden 3 total bullshit, but Either way, let's check out the armory. Now, you might remember the armory from the Claire A scenario. Not only did it have a lot of ammo in it, but it also had 2 exclusive items. The submachine gun in the side pack. I didn't take either because I didn't need them for the Claire A scenario. First off, here we got some Magnum bullets, the first refill in the game, and some decent chunks of handgun bullets, if I recall. Yeah, like a total of 30. But the thing is, for Leon, you grabbed a lot of stuff in his campaign, so this time along, I'm taking the side pack. And also, the side pack, you don't get your rank degraded from using it. You do that. That's with that happens with the submachine gun, but not the side pack. So now we have 2 more inventory spaces. This is going to make things a lot less painful later on. The submachine gun, as I said before, if you want to use it, go ahead. I don't like it too much because the shotgun and Magnum are just overall better anyway for crowd control. But if you want to go hog wild, go ahead and use it. It's actually a pretty fun weapon, all things considered. Though there are more fun weapons you can get. Especially that we'll see later on. Either way, I'm going a bit off the beaten path here into this extra room. You don't need to go in here at all. All that's in here is some ammo. But I like ammo. First off in here is some shotgun shells. I believe those are grenade rounds in the original Claire scenario, though they might be flame rounds for all I know. The same Watchman's Diary, and some Magnum bullets, which is the real reason I come down here. Because Magnum bullets, they're in fairly low supply still. Not as bad as they were in Resident Evil 1. I want to say there's at least double the amount of refills for that, but still very few enough to the point where you want to grab as many as you can. And some green herbs. Now, I could pause. You might remember in the A scenario, I didn't do it, but there was that cord in the area with the, I think it was the yellow plate for Claire. I would actually recommend, if you wanted to use it anywhere in the A scenario, use it in that room, because there are 2 ways for Leon to get back to the room where you're going to eventually use those 4 items. And one of the only ways is through that room. So if you want to use it there over anywhere else. Because the room where you encounter the first liquor in Claire scenario, you don't really need to go back through there ever. Though I forget if it carries on to the B scenario. I know the fact that you use it does, but I forget if the room itself is still blocked off. Don't quote me on it. Either way, I think at this point the liquors are gone, but I'm not entirely sure about that. No, they're still here. Well, it is still here because I didn't kill one of them. So I guess after this next thing coming up is the last time the liquors will show up. Either way, before we head down the path to Mr. Brian Iron's office, I do want to rearrange my inventory really quick. Want to get those keys in there, and I want to store the Magnum bullets. No, I want to store the handgun and its bullets, I believe. I honestly forget what I do. I know I get out the Magnum. Actually, no, that's good. Because they're going to use the red jewels anyway. Love how I'm trying to remember this while I'm doing the commentary. I'm good at this. Totally professional. Hi there. How you doing? Yeah, more often than not, lickers will not notice you unless you're running. And the only other time they'll notice you is if you either A, directly touch them, or if you are about halfway past them while walking. Because they are sound, because, you know, they're blind, but they can definitely hear. Either way, let's place in those red jewels. You get to do this a lot earlier than in the Claire scenario if you're good, actually, if you're good enough and better at timing than I am, honestly. You know, something about that CG has always seemed off to me. I don't know what. Maybe it's the angle, maybe it's the sound effects, I don't know. Though I have to admit, overall, the pre-rendered cutscenes in this game are pretty good. They look a bit more plasticky than maybe the Square Enix ones, but they run at a much higher frame rate. I want to say, not 60, but closer to 60 than the old Final Fantasy ones. But, you know, good. Congrats to Capcom for that. It's pretty good. Either way, we're back in Brian Irons' office, but we don't have much to do in here itself. But there are handgun bullets here. I forget if those are there for Claire. And the diary is still here. I'm just gonna not read it. Now, the main reason we want to come over here is because where there was a first aid spray in the little chest, in the room where Claire meets Sherry, for Leon, there's something else. And that something else is pertinent to us, you know, beating the game, so we gotta need to grab that. Oh, and the Secretary Diary B is still here, but not important, I already read it. That's right, the crank's in here. I'm not sure why there are 2 cranks in the R.P.D. and why they're in entirely different positions, but I'll just blame the idea of placing items in different positions for the different scenarios. I know that jingle. From here on out, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you hear that, that means Trenchy's in the room with you. And he's the reason I brought along the Magnum. I think 3 bullets is enough? Yeah, 3. Whenever you hear the music fade out like that, just stop. They're dead. Don't waste any more ammo on them. And this time around, we get more Magnum bullets, which is the reason I brought the Magnum bullets along with me, so I wouldn't have to think about that in inventory space. By the way, Mr. X, whenever he's in a room, and you leave that room and immediately go back in, he's still there, so you'll have to fight him again. Though I think the reward is placed somewhere in the room. Though more often than not, the way I like to do it is to try to have the idea of having the reward from him ahead of time, so I always make sure I have the proper inventory to have it with me. You know, all things considered, the walking speed in this game isn't too slow. It's actually, I think, faster than Resident Evil 1's. And I actually like that you actually have to use it in this game, because in Resident Evil 1, the walk was more or less pointless, wasn't it? Because no enemies in Resident Evil 1 off the top of my head were responded to sound. By the way, we got the King plug in there as well. At some point along the line, I forget where. That's one of the 4 plugs we need in order to get into that one area. I completely skimmed over that. because I'm thinking back. None of the enemies in Resident Evil 1 were responding to sound, so the walk was more or less pointless. The remake would make it have at least some points. Because I think Lisa, or whatever her name was, the weird thing that tracked you through certain rooms, I think she responded to sound slightly. And that one section in the lab where you had the nitrate, what was the name of the chemical? The one that's very volatile and will explode if you run, if I recall that section correctly. And mind you, that section is a real slog. I love this main hall theme so much. I do recommend you look up Resident Evil 2's soundtrack, because while not all of it's, catchy, some of the songs that are nice and serene are very calming. I always recommend to people who want some good sleeping music, that theme there and the save room theme. Though not as much as I'd recommend the save room theme from Resident Evil 1, because that's just outright relaxing. I know I mentioned back in Resident Evil 1 that it reminded me of aquatic ambience from Donkey Kong Country, but upon further listening, it also reminds me a bit of Jolly Roger Bay from Super Mario 64. Either way, we're back in the red room hallway. There it is right there, but you gotta notice there's no enemies in here. There's a reason for that we'll see later on. And the room where the yellow plate was for Claire, there is still an important item for Leon, but I want to go into this room first because there's ammo. And a liquor on the ceiling. I actually didn't notice you could see it there. I guess my screen was too dark when I recorded it. Don't run in there, obviously. Now let's go into the other room and grab the important item. Now let's see, is the cord still there? I think it actually might be replaced by a first aid spray. Yeah, it is. So no cord for the B scenario, I guess. I guess it would carry on between the scenarios. Also, I wonder how this game is handling reflections. I'm assuming it's the way a lot of other games did it. Yeah, he doesn't even break that liquor doesn't even break through this time around. I'm assuming the way this game handles reflections is the way like not Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion did it in a really crappy way. Is that essentially they have a second room on the other side of that mirror, and you're essentially just controlling a mirrored version of Leon. So there's technically 2 entities of him on screen at any time, just the fact that one of them is in a mirrored version of the room. I'd assume as much, at least. Either way, this puzzle's the exact same. You have to, well, first off, there's a first aid spray here. I have to light that thing up and then go middle, right, left. And then we'll be good to get that cog again. God, repeated puzzles are boring, aren't they? Gotta love them. Alright, let's get that. Oh, hi! Mr. X Fight 3! This one is very easy because you can loop around the table and he'll never get a chance to touch you. But the Magnum is, once again, too good. And for beating him this time around, I think we get shotgun shells? No, more handgun bullets. I think Mr. X almost always drops double size ammunition, though. Like, he'll always drop 30 handgun bullets. Some, like, I forget what the double is for Magnum. I think it's like 12? I'm not sure. He drops a lot of ammo either way. And now we got that cog, we can leave our way and never come back to this area. Now that was really rude of him going all Kool-Aid Man on us, huh? But hey, they actually keep the hole there. That's nice attention to detail. Hopefully he's not gotten up. Oh, damn it. Admittedly, that did make me laugh the first playthrough, because of course he'd come through the wall, because he's in the same room. I want to say this time it takes 5 Magnum bullets. Either way, if you have enough Magnum ammo, this is not a problem. However, I ran low and had to start using my shotgun. You know, one of the things you saw it a bit there when I was trying to get away from him. One of the things that I wish Resident Evil 2 had that wouldn't be introduced until Resident Evil 3 is the quick turn. For those of the unaware, Resident Evil 3 onwards introduced a thing if you held backwards and pressed X, you would flip around 180 degrees, essentially making escape a lot easier to do. So you wouldn't have to just run around the circle and then run backwards. You could just do a quick flip and run. Something I'm very glad that game introduced and wish that more that they actually did in earlier games. And if I recall, they brought it back for the remake of Resident Evil 1, so they'll probably bring it back for the remake of Resident Evil 2. I wonder how far in development that is. Considering, for those of the unaware, the Resident Evil 2 remake has been one of those games fans have been wanting, not on the exact same caliber, but to a fairly close extent of the Final Fantasy VII remake, because this was one of the PlayStation's most well-regarded games, like 93%, I believe I read at one point this got as a rating. Oh, hi there. I still do wonder how they rendered these backgrounds, because I know they took like a month to render each, but I do have to wonder if it was like just one giant 3D room that they just took 2D pictures of. I know that I brought that up towards the end of the Claire campaign, but that's a good question. I wish more games released like, they released more classic game development trivia along the lines, or as time progressed. Either way, we got that's the Rook plug in there, and I'm actually gonna bring out the King plug, I believe, along with the crank, because you might remember the area where we had to use the crank and cogwheel back in Claire's scenario, the library. We're now on our way over there, because the last two pieces are actually both over there. However, I should note that you might remember a certain thing that happened when we first entered the library. Well, not first entered the library, like the second time through the library as Claire. That same thing's going to happen with Leon, so if you want to get certain things in certain hallways, make sure you do that now. Also, I'm not sure if I needed to kill that liquor. I probably could have made it past it. Either way, welcome to the library. This piece still makes me shiver a little bit. So yeah, the hallway where Claire first encountered the liquors, and on the way to the basement, those now have zombies in them. So watch out for that. And if you remember the original Claire playthrough, you know what's coming up. We have to do that bookshelf puzzle, which means more falling through floorboards. I'll be honest, that never really gave me a jump. I know my brother said it gave him a jump at some point or another when his friend and him played it back in the day. But I always saw it coming because it looks pretty pronounced on that part of the walkway that there's nothing really to support it, so not really a jump scare in the making. However, the liquor that jumps through the mirror in the Claire scenario always gets me. You know why? Because the way I play Resident Evil 2 the most is not on the PlayStation, actually, even though I own a copy of it over there. The way I play Resident Evil 2 the most is on the PSP. And I almost always have my headphones in while playing my PSP, just because I like it that way. And the thing is about having the PSP on max volume is that when the liquor breaks through the mirror, it's loud. Like, ow, my ears are bleeding loud. So don't do that, ever. Either way, we got the third plug while I've been doing that library puzzle. I entirely forgot to mention that, by the way. Sorry about that. But now we're finally heading into the clock tower. Notice how there's no liquor here, even though Claire killed it. There's a reason for that. I'll get more into that in a few moments, though. And that's the crank gone. I do admit, I do find it kind of funny. Actually, no, that's properly. Don't you hate it when your head makes you think you said things wrong? I do find it kind of funny how they make the crank so useless in comparison to Resident Evil 1. Because in Resident Evil 1, it was basically a godsend once you got it, because it did like 3 things. But in Resident 2, nope, only once. I find that funny. And behind door number 1, like with Claire, is the 4th item we need, the night plug. However, unlike Claire, we can jump down this dust chute for a shortcut back to behind the parking lot. Cool!
No! Get away! No!
Oh shit, Ben. By the way, I should mention, if you're playing Leon A, Ben suffers Brian Irons' fate, and Brian Irons suffers this fate.
Ben! Can you still hear me? Come on, answer! Damn! I don't believe this. I almost got the story. Ben. Bitter irony. The chief of police, a co-conspirator. Get that scum. Make him pay. Hang in there, Ben.
Leon.
It's the same mail to the chief that Claire read before Brian Irons died.
Where are you going, Ada?
To the chemical plant. I have a feeling that's where I'll find John.
Ada, wait! Hey!
Leon, are you still there? We're leaving.
Are you crazy? The streets are still crawling with zombies.
It'll be all right, trust me. We found a way to the sewer. Follow us later.
Claire! Claire! Wait, wait! Man, why doesn't anyone ever listen to me?
I love that line. But yeah, Ben's dead. Now, one thing I should mention is that dust chute I jumped down. You don't have to jump down that. You can go the long way around. However, upon leaving the room where you use the crank, like the 3rd floor of the, what's it called, main hall, I believe that's a Mr. X encounter. I think he dropped shotgun shells that time, but don't quote me on that. I know he shows up there though. So yeah, you can avoid that just by doing what I did. That's usually the one fight I never do, because you don't need to do it. Most of the others, he's right in your way, but that one, not so much. But yeah, poor Ben. The poor guy who voices him dies both times. Then again, a lot of people die in this game because look at what happened to Raccoon City. Such a peaceful place in Resident Evil 1 times, which was 2 months ago if I recall, which means, yeah, this is September, if I recall. Either way, with that, I'm going to end this off here at the same place too, once you know it. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 4, we're finally leaving the R.P.D. and heading into the sewers once again. See you guys then.